Our guest this morning is Funke Giwa. She is a business management consultant working with MSMEs to structure, recruit, train, develop processes for better working environments and growth of all businesses. Good morning, Funke.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Hello, Funke. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
All right. I hope you're keeping safe.
Yes, I am. Always with my mask and with my hand sanitizer.
Thank you so much for doing that for all of us. All right. This morning, we're talking about gender equality and diversity in all business spheres. Now, my first question for you is, in this context, how will you define gender equality when it has to do with businesses?
So, I was listening to the conversation just before, you brought me up. And, a lot of people misunderstand what gender equality is. According to UNICEF, because that's an authority we all know, it means that, women and men enjoy the same rights, the same resources, the same opportunities, and the same protection in the workplace. So I'm going to put it in the context of in the workplace. It's that equal opportunities are given to both men and women. And gender equality does not mean that men and women are the same. It means that they are not restricted by their sex or their gender. So it's quite important that people need to understand that when it comes to business, you are not restricting women to a certain role and men to a certain role. There are equal opportunities for them in the workplace. So that is what gender equality means.
Okay, thank you for breaking that down for us. Now, is there any difference between gender equality and equity in business? Because Ari and I have had that back and forth a little bit this morning. And then, they are siblings of the same parents, but they don't necessarily mean the same thing. But to you, is there a difference?
There is. So equity, what equity means is that it recognizes that, women basically do not have the same, like what we call starting position as men. So gender equity, what it does is that it tries to create strategies. It tries to ensure that there is fairness, there are measures that help gender equality to become realized. So what it means is that it is a process where gender equality is achieved. Because, yes, you talk about gender equality, but there is a process, there is a step-by-step way to go about it. So that process of development is called gender equity. Do you get that?
Light into how I see equity and equality, because in the conversation this morning, I was telling Ade that equality and equity can be placed contextually, because I feel like there are just some jobs that some women may not want to do because of the kinds of the kinds of work that you'd have to put into it. But now that you've been able to explain that equity is like a process for equality, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So, in what ways does gender inequality show itself in the workplace, and how can, a person working in such conditions fight against those kind of, conditions? So in what shapes and forms does gender inequality show itself in the workplace?
Can I take that again? I didn't get that.
In what ways does gender inequality show itself? In what ways does it play out in the workplace?
Oh, okay. So we all know that, in the workplace, as we know it as a team, especially in Nigeria, there are some roles that, can be gender-based. We find out that, when it comes to decision-making and very top leadership roles, women at times are found, in the lowest of numbers. It doesn't favor them. For example, in marketing, you find out that many times people prefer women to marketing roles, fair women. We all know this. So I had a senior friend at a particular time, she's in the marketing department. And in the workplace, she was being told that, she's not even, look at how yellow you are. And that's why we took you. She's a fair woman, fair in complexion.
Yeah.
And that with all your assets, you cannot get the kind of targets that we want. And that is inequality because you're favoring, her because of her gender. That's one of the reasons why you give them the role. In some other roles, so it happens both to men and women, some roles will not just be given to men because you assume that it is good for men. So you have it as in the cooking industry, for example, even though some of these things are changing gradually, in the cooking industry, you prefer a woman to cook or to be in a certain role. Maybe you have a chef in an organization, you prefer to put a woman, but of course, certain things are changing. So, basically, are ways in which, changing those things, it presents itself there.
Okay, what informs, my next question is, what kind of factors are responsible for gender inequality in the workplace? I would say that one of the underlying factors would be, we live in a patriarchal society. But why is it that, employers, okay, you've given one example in the marketing, as per why, light-skinned women are employed as marketers, which is very interesting to me. The light-skinned women are employed as marketers.
They're trying to be more attractive.
To attract customers.
They will get more customers and, other tones.
Yeah. Okay, so what other factors, are responsible for gender inequality in the workplace?
Basically, one of the top things is just gender stereotypes,
Okay.
So you talked about culture and tradition. But then we know that, that is also, one of the top things is gender stereotypes. We feel that this is something that a man should do, this is something a woman should do. There is also lack of education.
Yes.
When we are not properly educated, that is also a factor for it. There is lack of opportunities, for women as well, because when you are not educated a woman or you have limited, exposure for a certain gender, for example, now women, you find out that they will not be represented equally. They won't have access because they don't have that education, they won't have that opportunity.
Yes.
You won't be able to fill in some kind of role. Just like a lady was talking earlier on, and she said that, there are some jobs you do not want to do, but you want to do them. So the moment that, there is a call and say, okay, let everybody come in for this job. If you are not educated, the genders, a particular gender, they will not be well represented in the workplace in that case. So, and also we are being open-minded, if we have what we know that is a fixed mindset, a stereotype in our thinking, it will also limit, it's also equality in the workplace.
Yes. All right. Let's talk about gender stereotypes that you have just mentioned. Now, like you said, we have jobs that people feel that women shouldn't do. We have jobs that people feel that men shouldn't do. How can we change that narrative? Because our times have changed. Like, people now do what they want to do. In fact, there used to be a time where we would not hear that a woman is an engineer. There used to be a time where we wouldn't hear that a woman is a pilot. There used to be a time where a woman wasn't a mechanic or a vulcanizer, a plumber or a painter or any of these things. When we now have women there, or a furniture maker, we now have women doing these things, but they are suffering a lot of stigmatization because it's a stereotyped kind of job. They don't have a lot of representation. They don't have a lot of people actually supporting them, and then it's just dampening their spirits. Same as men.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of guys that are chefs. We have a lot of guys that are hairdressers. We have a lot of guys that are doing all sorts of jobs that are not meant to be a guy's job, quote and unquote. How can we change that narrative?
Well, to change that narrative, the first thing we need is that what you are doing. So High Impact is doing a fantastic work right now. You are
Thank
educated.
Thank you very
So
much.
taking an opinion poll, for example, and you're hearing the opinions of people, even though my guy here was a bit surprised, maybe because you're a guy. But the woman wasn't surprised based on those opinions, from people's perspective.
Exactly.
So High Impact is doing a very, very powerful work by educating people. So the key to changing anything is education. Is education. When you're teaching people and letting them, you're bringing the discussion to the forefront. So once you begin to educate, people might be a bit reluctant at first, but we need to keep at it. We need to keep doing, that education has to be continuous. So I feel well done to High Impact for this kind of discussion. Another thing is, of course, by the time you educate, you begin to have a lot of flexibility. People begin to be more open-minded and all that. Another that I feel that would help is policies. When we are creating policies, in our organizations. I know we have a lot of private organizations, but if people are if employers of labor as they begin to learn and become more exposed, they should begin to set in policies in their various workplaces. It will help, and advocacy. Another, that is very important will be mentoring. So if you have a kind of guy or a man in a particular role, an outlier in a particular role, somebody that stands out, they can begin to mentor other people in that same way. So with successful women, you find successful women all over the place, telling women that you can climb up. You also have men, in different fields that is usually probably not for men, also climb up and begin to say, you can do this. So those are very key things that we can do about it.
All right. Now, before I let you go this morning, you've talked about the ways that we can change the narrative when it has to do with gender stereotypes. But I want to ask, do you think these gender stereotypes, gender inequality is one of the reasons why we have a high rate of unemployment in the society? Do you think it's a factor?
Well, statistically, there is nothing that shows that whether gender inequality contributes to it, whether gender contributes to the rate of unemployment. But I would say that it is in another way, because if a lot of women, girls are not in school. If you give better opportunities to women, it could probably that rate, in a positive way, make sure that the rate drops. So if women, for example, are given more opportunity, it could, in a certain way, also reduce the rate of unemployment of youth in Nigeria. I feel in a way it could, but statistically we don't have that kind of data. I have not seen that kind of data, that says that, it is. But I feel that when you educate more women and you give more women opportunities, they might do more.
Thank you very much, Frika. But before you go, what can people do? What can the government do? What can employers do? What can individuals do, stakeholders do to reduce the rate of gender inequality when it has to do with businesses? Ade raised a very interesting question earlier when we were having a conversation. He said that sometimes the conversation is more from one particular gender, that's the women, but then we're neglecting the men too because they also suffer gender equality. Well, I told him that it is more popular because we are in a patriarchal system, and it is recent that a lot of women that have gotten opportunities are speaking up for other women so they can also get opportunities and also, be on the same level as their male counterparts. But looking at it from the other side, what can be done generally by stakeholders to just stop gender equality in the workspace and in businesses?
Yeah, so like I said earlier on, education, we keep doing sensitization, for in our workplaces, and when we create policies. So, like I said, I recruit for organizations, and and small businesses. And I've been opportune to be with, even big organizations as well. And I know that for some organizations, it's there in their policy. When you're recruiting, you are ensuring that you're giving equal opportunities. There is a number that is allocated for men. There is a number that is allocated for women, so that in that department there is equal representation of both genders. So people are conscious of it. So when you create policies like that in your workplace, that you give the role to the best person, because when it comes to cerebral work or mental work, there should not be any limit. So once you create those kind of policies in organization, it's a good way. You could also do a lot of education, like I said earlier on. It will go a long way to help reduce it. And even, in different places of like government, doing different sensitization programs, passing policies, because I know even in HR you have those policies that you should not recruit based on gender. It is unethical, when you're recruiting. So once we keep at this and we are following those things, I'm sure with time, it will take a while, but we will get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our culture is a major thing, but we will get that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.